He used my wife to ruin me, my best friend, my brother in everything but blood. They stripped me of my job, my home, my name, and handed me betrayal, with a smile, but while they were celebrating my downfall, I was rebuilding in silence. 4 years later, I walked back into their world, not to forgive, not to fight, but to show them what regret looks like. When it's staring up at a man they can no longer reach. I used to believe betrayal came with a warning, a flicker in the eyes, a missed call, a hesitation in the voice. But the truth is, sometimes betrayal sounds like laughter from the people you love the most. My name is Aaron Blake, and this is the story of how my best friend and my wife destroyed me, and how I became the man they thought they'd buried. It started with a drink, a few friends, a Friday night. Nothing unusual. We were celebrating a design pitch win at work. My concept, but the credit as always was shared. Eli Donovan, my best friend and the firm's rainmaker, bought the champagne. He always did. Charismatic, loud, smiling wide enough to own every room he walked into. He slapped my back that night like we were brothers. You and me, Blake, he grinned, building legacies. I believed him. I always did. Back home, Rachel, my wife of 6 years, had already set out dinner. Salmon, wine, candles. It was the first Friday she hadn't worked late in weeks. You're glowing, I said, kissing her cheek. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Looking back now, I think that was the first crack. Rachel had been distant, not angry, not cold, just not present. She was always somewhere else, mentally, emotionally, even physically. Late meetings, silent dinners. Screen turned away on the couch. I asked her once if everything was okay. She said she was just tired. Work was hectic. Life was heavy. I believed her. I always did. 2 weeks later, I caught them in the same elevator. Eli and Rachel, laughing too loud, standing too close. My stomach twisted, but my mind refused to follow. He's your best friend, I told myself. She's your wife. I let it go. A month after that, Eli came to me with a proposal. A side project, off books, quick money, high profile. You run the numbers, he said. I'll handle the pitch. Something about it felt off. The contracts were vague, the vendors unfamiliar, but I didn't push too hard. I trusted him. He was my best friend. When I hesitated, he said something I'll never forget. Aaron, don't overthink it. This is your shot to be more than just the guy behind the blueprints. It stung, but I signed. 3 weeks later, I was summoned to HR, accused of falsifying reports, misallocating project funds. A paper trail led back to me. Invoices, email approvals, bank transfers, all fake, all perfectly forged. Rachel didn't even look at me during the hearing. She just sat beside Eli as his silent witness. They fired me that day. Security escorted me out of the firm I helped build. Not a single goodbye, not a single question, just silence. When I got home, the locks had been changed, a letter taped to the door. I'm filing for divorce. This isn't working anymore. I hope you find peace. Signed, Rachel. No explanation, no fight, just abandonment in bold font. I slept in my car that night, in front of the house I had designed myself. The porch light was still on, but not for me. Inside, I could see silhouettes moving. 2 glasses on the table, her laugh, with him. In the weeks that followed, I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my marriage. Eli submitted the final paperwork that proved my guilt. Rachel signed the affidavit that labeled me emotionally unstable. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I barely afforded groceries. People whispered about me. What happened to Blake? He snapped. Too bad. He had talent. And in the quietest moments, I started to believe them. Until one day I stood in front of a bathroom mirror in a gas station 50 miles from anyone who knew my name. Eyes bloodshot, shirt torn, hands shaking, and I said out loud, they destroyed the old me. Now I'll build a version they can never reach, one that she'll spend the rest of her life regretting losing. I disappeared. Not in the dramatic burn it all down kind of way. I just quietly ceased to exist in their world. No updates, no angry emails, no cryptic posts, just silence. I moved 3 cities away, rented a single room above an old bookstore. No Wi-Fi, no distractions. The first few nights I just lay there. Blank ceiling. Blank mind. I'd lost everything I thought made me a man. But pain, if you let it sit long enough, turns into something sharper. Discipline. I used to spend nights making dinner for someone who was never hungry. Now I spent them drawing. I bought a second-hand drafting table with my last $80, got design software from a student license, and downloaded architectural case studies like scripture. No distractions, no expectations, just the grind. During the day, I worked construction, pouring cement, hauling lumber, hard labor, no name tag, no legacy. But I listened, watched how things were done wrong, how costs were cut, corners bent, and I took notes. The nights were for building something else. Me. I started training, running before sunrise, push-ups until my chest burned, cold showers. My body changed slowly. So did my posture, my eyes. People noticed, even if they didn't know the story. They could sense something had been broken in me and forged back together. 2 years in, I launched my own online brand, Blakeform Studio. Anonymous at first, concepts, renderings, silent case studies. I didn't sell services, I solved problems. My designs were lean, futuristic, and brutal in their clarity. No fluff, no pretense. I posted every Thursday at 7 a.m. Didn't miss a single week for 18 months. Then one day, an email. Hi, I'm Rachel Tran, VC at Harbour North. We've been following your designs. Would you be open to a call? I kept it professional. One phone call turned into two. Two turned into a funding offer. Not a job, a partnership. By year 4, Blakeform wasn't just a brand. It was a movement, clean architecture, zero corruption, designs that lived longer than the men who approved them. We were featured in digital architecture journals, then in magazines, then in government proposals. The world had no idea who I really was. But Eli and Rachel, they would, because we'd just been shortlisted for a city redevelopment bid, a bid Eli's failing firm had applied for and lost to me. I didn't smile, didn't post, I just circled the date on the calendar, the Design Expo, the one where I'd present the project that buried his and hers. The Design Expo was held in a glass hall downtown. Polished floors, hanging lights, dozens of firms showing off models like runway dresses. I arrived in a tailored black suit, no name tag, no introduction, just a folder in my hand and 4 years of silence behind me. This wasn't a comeback, it was a reveal. Harbour North had given me full control of the presentation, a smart move, because I wasn't just going to show them my design, I was going to show them why they failed to see it coming. My concept, a low-cost modular housing block for displaced families, was sleek, green, and 30% under budget compared to the other finalists. Clean lines, zero waste, form meets function. And when the keynote began, my name was projected 12 feet tall. Aaron Blake, founder, Blakeform Studio. You could feel the air shift. People turned, whispers, recognition, and in the third row, I saw her, Rachel, wearing a fitted grey dress, hair longer, eyes sharper. She froze the moment she read my name. Sitting beside her, older, thinner, jaw clenched, Eli Donovan. His hands gripped the edge of his seat. He leaned toward her, whispering something. She didn't blink. She just stared at me. Like a ghost had walked through the front door. I stepped on stage. 4 years ago, I lost everything, I said into the mic. And like many of the people we're trying to house, I know what it's like to be invisible. I paused, looked straight at them. So I built something no one could ignore. A slow murmur passed through the room, not from pity, but from recognition. After the presentation, a crowd gathered around me. Journalists, executives, city planners. Rachel approached from behind the cluster. Aaron, she said soft. I turned. There was a moment, a flicker of the woman I once knew. Can we talk? She asked, just for a minute. I nodded. We walked past the booths and out into the quiet hallway. I didn't know, she whispered, you'd built all this. That's because you never saw me, I replied. You only saw what Eli told you I wasn't. She looked down. He told me you were weak, that you'd fall apart, that you'd never rebuild. He was right, I said. I didn't rebuild. I started from scratch, and I made sure nothing I built would ever depend on people like him again. She didn't speak, just nodded, eyes wet but unblinking. I regret what I did, she said finally, not just choosing him, believing him. I know, I said. That's why I'm not angry anymore. Then what are you? She asked. Unreachable. And with that, I walked away. 3 weeks after the expo, the city committee announced the results. Out of 9 firms, Blakeform Studio was awarded the contract. Eli's firm wasn't just rejected, they were disqualified after an anonymous complaint flagged inconsistencies in their vendor bids. I didn't submit the complaint. I just made sure the committee had access to everything I once wasn't allowed to show. When the public memo hit inboxes across the industry, I didn't post about it, didn't celebrate, but people noticed, especially the ones who had helped bury me. That weekend, I got a message from a former coworker. Eli laid off 6 people. Rumors say the board's pressuring him to resign. Another read, Rachel's been consulting again. Alone. And then came the final one. They're selling the house, quick sale, no market listing. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because this wasn't revenge. This was the ripple effect of truth catching up. The project kicked off that fall. I stood on a construction site with steel beams behind me and engineers calling me Sir. Sometimes I caught a glimpse of myself in the side mirror of a truck. The beard, the eyes, the calm. This was the man I became in the fire. And nothing, not Eli's manipulation, not Rachel's betrayal, not the years they stole, could touch him now. One morning, while walking through the foundation blueprint with the city planner, I spotted a car idling near the fence. Black, familiar. I knew who it was before the window rolled down. Eli, thinner, hollow, tie undone. He stepped out and walked over slowly, like someone approaching the grave they once dug. Aaron, he said, got a minute? No, I said without looking up. Just wanted to say congrats. I raised an eyebrow. Not here for a job recommendation? His smile didn't reach his eyes. You always were good with numbers, he said. And you always were good with people, I replied. Especially breaking them. He shoved his hands in his pockets. Rachel left, he said quietly. Said she didn't recognize the man I became. Neither did I said, locking eyes. But now I do, and so does she. He opened his mouth to speak again, but I turned back to the plans. We're building something honest here, Eli, I said. That means no ghosts on site. He stood there for a moment longer, then walked back to his car and drove off. The official ribbon-cutting ceremony was modest. No flashing cameras, no viral posts, just city officials, a few families who would move into the new homes, and the Blakeform crew standing beneath steel arches we'd imagined, drafted and built from nothing. I kept my speech short. We don't just design buildings, we rebuild lives. People applauded, but the moment that stuck wasn't on stage. It came later in the back corner of the lot, as I was reviewing final specs with our site manager. That's when I saw her, Rachel, hair tied back, wearing a grey coat, no makeup, no performance. She looked real, and more out of place than ever. I could have ignored her, but I didn't. I walked over. I wasn't sure you'd want me here, she said softly. I don't, I answered. But I'm not angry anymore. I came to see what you've built, she said. Everyone's talking about it, about you. I didn't build this to be talked about, I replied. I built it because it mattered. She nodded, eyes misting. He lied to me, she said, about everything, about you, about the firm, about himself. I know, I said. He lied to everyone. That's who he is. She looked up. You became someone else. I shook my head gently. Number, I became who I was always meant to be. You just couldn't see it, or maybe you didn't want to. A beat of silence. Do you ever miss what we had? I smiled, but not with bitterness. I miss who I thought we were, but not what we became. I regret walking away, she whispered. Good, I said, because I didn't walk away from you. I just walked toward who I really am. She nodded again, then stepped back. You look peaceful, she said. That's what building without betrayal does, I replied. Then I walked away, not fast, not cold, just free. Later that night, I sat in my office overlooking the skyline. Framed on my shelf was a small photo, not of Rachel, not of Eli, but of me, standing on the first day I poured foundation on this project. Dirt on my boots, sun in my eyes, hope in my chest. That was the day I stopped chasing apologies and started living like I'd never need one again. It's strange what we carry with us and what we choose to leave behind. I used to carry bitterness like armor, tight across my chest, never letting light in. But bitterness is heavy, and it never protects you the way healing does. Years have passed. Blakeform now leads multiple projects across the country, schools, housing, cultural spaces, all grounded in the same philosophy. Built with integrity, protected by design. People know my name now, but more importantly, they know my work, and that's how I want it. I mentor young designers now, ones who've been overlooked, cut out, betrayed, broken. I don't tell them to fight back. I teach them to build forward, because you can spend your whole life chasing the people who broke you, or you can become someone they can never break again. One of my interns once asked, "How did you survive what they did to you?" I thought for a long moment, then said, I stopped trying to prove them wrong. I started becoming someone so right. They couldn't touch me even if they tried. Rachel eventually faded into a memory. Not painful. Not sweet, just distant. Eli's name occasionally pops up in industry news, mostly lawsuits, audits, firms collapsing under his influence. The man who used to walk ahead of everyone, now can't keep up with anyone. But me, I walk quietly, confidently, undefended, because I no longer need walls. I am the foundation now. And if you've ever been torn down by someone who used your heart as a weapon, don't waste your time asking why. Just get to work, because one day they'll look up from whatever ruins they've built and see the monument you've become. And in that moment, they won't remember what they took from you. They'll only remember what they never got to keep.